Hey, this is Meridith Elliott Powell, and you know what time it is. Well, maybe you don't know what time it is because it's my fault. We're coming to you a little bit early this morning. I'm going to go catch a flight, but it is time for a Sales Logic, the show where we dive into the strategies, discuss the steps, everything that you need to know to really understand how to sell effectively. And I have dragged Mark out of bed exceptionally early this morning. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing good. Hey, it's 6 a.m. here, but you know what? I've already been up for an hour and life is good. I got coffee in hand. Let's have a great show.
Let's have a great show. All right, I'll go ahead and get us started and we will dive in. I really love the topic for today, and I think it's a great way to kick off 2024. Hey, this is Meridith Elliott Powell. Again, welcome back to a Sales Logic. You know, Mark, I was just thinking when we were listening to the music, you really are living a life of extremities. I mean, last weekend, you were with us in Phoenix, then you visited your brother in his retirement community, and now you are running around with little grandkids. I mean, it is about as extreme as it can possibly get, right?
You know what? I love my life because I can unplug from any of those at any time. You know what? The best time is right here this morning. You know what? We're talking about how to personalize the sales experience. But hey, you should tell the audience how the show works before we roll into it.
Yeah, I always love to kick off that way because we want to invite you, the audience, to be a part of this show. I mean, Mark and I are so lucky. We have such an incredible audience. And the way that you do that, it's simple. You simply send a question in to saleslogicpodcast.com, because what Mark and I are doing, we are here for you. We want to put topics on here that are relevant. Got a question? Send it to Mark, send it to me. Go to saleslogicpodcast.com. While you're there, register for our powerful mastermind. But we discuss a hot topic, recommend a book, and because we want you to leave with return on investment, we have a lightning round. So, Mark, again, what's up for today?
Yeah, the topic today is personalizing the sales experience. What does that mean? How do you do it? And why do customers care? Now, the question comes from Rico in Mexico City. He says, we sell a commodity. Our competitive landscape is thick. We're getting beaten up on price. What can I do to help my sales team create a better and more personal experience for our customers? One that makes them easily choose us over the competition and takes price off the table. Very important when you're selling a commodity. This is a great question to answer. Go for it.
You know, Mark, I wonder, do any of us sell anything that isn't a commodity these days?
Well, see, that's the whole point. I mean, everything, because everything has got options. You know, I don't care who or what you are. There's always some other way to solve a problem. So you're right. We all do. That means we have to create a distinctive difference. So what's the advice we would give to Rico? What's the advice we'd give to every listener out there?
Yeah, well, Rico, if what your team is doing is selling a product, they are selling a commodity. So the first thing you need to do with the team is begin to shift the mindset, is to help them understand that they are selling a solution or a path for somebody to get closer to the goal. See, there's value in that. Or they're selling out that somebody might miss out on something. But you need to get them off the product, because products will always be price sensitive. So your team has to begin to position why your team, your product or service is better positioned to more effectively solve the problem that the customer's got.
Yeah, and the one distinctive you've got is you yourself, your own personality. Now, unless you're the weird uncle or the crazy aunt, let your personality come through, because I'll tell you what, in this day and age that we live, in this pace that we live, it's easy to see everything sanitized, everything vanilla, everything black and white. What you want to do is you want to allow your personality and engage with the customer. Here's the whole situation. You never know what the customer is looking for until they actually share with you. But they're not going to share with you unless they feel comfortable with you. Now, there's a lot of ways you can create confidence with them, but one way is by simply engaging them in some of that personal conversation. Now, I'm not saying to go weird. Don't go weird with people, but you can engage in person, just like what Mayor and I do every time we start off the show. There's a little bit of that engagement. Why? Because we want you to feel comfortable that we're humans.
Yeah, I'm going to say you really, if you want to personalize the conversation, if you want to get price off the table, and that is the key to doing it, key to getting it off, is that you have to help me understand why yours is a better solution. And the only way to help me understand why yours is a better solution is to make it a better solution. And you can only make it a better solution if you intimately and really understand what the problem is. Mark, I'm going to give an example of this. I was driving back to the Kansas City airport the other day, and I had somebody call me, and they called looking for coaching and development. And when they got on the call with me, they'd already spoken to 4 different options. There were 4 different processes they were looking at. Now, at this point, I know there's still a chance because they're talking to me, right? Like, so they're still looking. Nobody's kind of nailed it, right? So if you get through the door, understand your competitor hasn't sealed the deal. We were going to do a 45-minute call, 30 minutes of it. All I did was listen to what this particular person was really looking for. I asked so many questions. Now, she asked me a couple of questions. I'd answer her quickly, and I would say, look, to really understand what you need and to really help you, I really have to understand what's there. Now, I need to be honest. I wasn't sure I was the best fit. And I was really trying to explore to see where I needed to help her, which I think is really important in personalizing the sales experience. If I wasn't the right fit, I wouldn't have recommended it. But my point was, when I got down underneath what she was really looking for, I completely understood how to solve that problem. And I put an offer on the table that nobody else put on the table. And she was so excited about it. But if I hadn't spent 30 minutes listening, if I hadn't been open to the fact that there might have been a better option for her than me, then I don't think I could have personalized the experience, and I don't think I could have won the deal.
See, there's a great example of how personalizing is by putting the customer first. You put the customer first by simply asking questions, engaging with them. And as you do that, it's amazing how the two of you are going to converse. You know what's always interesting is I'm sure that person hung up the phone, ended the call, thinking you're incredibly brilliant. And yet, you know what's interesting is that other person probably did 80% of the talking, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We are seen brilliant when we talk less. Wow, there's an earth-shaking moment. But what this is all about is about asking questions. And here's how you personalize it. And this is where, and if you think about it in this AI world that we're in, artificial intelligence, or as our friend Jay Baer loves to say, average intelligence. Our goal is to be probing down deeper and by asking deeper questions. And that's exactly what you were doing. I'm sure that, you'd ask that person a question, they'd answer, and then you'd ask a follow-up question on that. And you'd keep going down deep. And we have, personalization is like looking at everything as if it's an onion, and I'm peeling layers. I'm peeling layers to get down to the part of the onion that I really want to use. And when I do that, it's amazing. And I'm going to tell you something, Rico, this is going to be your challenge with your organization, because, if I can't identify, and I'm going to have a feeling that, Mary, when you were talking with this person, you probably, by the time you were done, had 3 or 4 different outcomes you could help them achieve, but you zeroed in on one.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what's key. When we have multiple options and we zero in on one, then we truly create that personalized experience.
Yeah, Mark, what a great and really, really, really powerful point you're bringing up, because the zeroing in on one really matters, because the zeroing in on one is about their urgent need. And if you don't focus on their urgent need, it's not a personal situation. I'm just full of stories this morning, but this is one of my favorites about not personalizing. One afternoon, Rob had made a decision, that's my husband, that he was going to purchase a 6-figure piece of dental equipment. That decision was already made in his head. So the salesperson didn't have much to do because he had made the decision he was going to, strike that check. And he had it down to 2 salespeople. And he asked me to come in that afternoon and just listen and kind of give my opinion. So I met him at the office. And when I walked in there, they had had one of those days. I mean, everything had gone wrong. And it was a Thursday afternoon. He usually finished at 2. He'd set these salespeople up for 2:30 and 3:30. Well, I get in there. There's no way they're going to be done before 3:30. So I get the salesperson. Would you mind waiting? Absolutely not. We talk for a little bit. In walks Rob, and I can just see by his body language how frustrated he is. He hasn't eaten. He's angry. He's all that kind of stuff. He sits down. The salesperson takes that as a clue to sell as fast as they can. They said, Dr. Powell, I know you've had a tough day. Let me just strike into it. I could look at Rob and tell he wasn't listening at all. Not at all. Second salesperson comes in. They look at Rob and they said, Dr. Powell, I understand you've had a really hard day. How about, you grab some lunch. I'll just wait outside, whatever you want me to do. And Rob said, no. Let me just grab a sandwich. I'll just sit here and I'll listen to you. And the salesperson said, Dr. Powell, tell me a little bit about your day. They spent 45 minutes with Rob complaining about how bad his day was. And the last 5 minutes, he signed the check. And you have to read what is going on with the person in front of you and connect in what they want to connect about. I don't know about you, Mark, but probably one of the biggest mistakes I see salespeople make is you hear a product need and you pounce. And you don't know if that's the biggest problem. And if you don't sell urgent need, the person doesn't feel heard.
This is where speed selling gets us in trouble, because you're right. Because at first salesperson said, okay, Dr. Powell is looking for this piece of equipment and I'm just going to make it happen real quick. But failing to account for the individual, because at the core of every transaction is a human being. And Rob's demeanor was different that day than it was probably most other days because of the day. And that second salesperson was willing to acknowledge it. This is what's so key. You see, we as salespeople can get programmed that this is the process we use. These are the steps we do. This is what we go. And we fail to realize the individual on the other end, whether it be in person, like the example you shared, whether it be on a Teams call, Zoom call, telephone, whatever it might be. But here's one of the whole things. That second salesperson undoubtedly did something to comfort, to allow your husband to feel, okay, hey, I can stop, I can have a sandwich. And what was that? That was a very simple, probably tone of voice, body language, the way they accepted. And basically what it comes down to is the salesperson accepted the customer, your husband, at the moment they were in. And that's absolutely key. You see, the key is in sales, you don't put the customer into your situation. You have to step into their situation. And when you step into their situation, you automatically turn the table to where the customer's now first.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You have got to put that customer first. The other thing I think is remembering just remembering the little things. Like, last time you talked to them, did they have, an event they were going to? Did they just come off going to a trip? Like, what do you know about your customer? What do you know and what do you understand about your customer? What do you know about the industry? I think one of the things that's really important is to be one step ahead of them from an industry perspective. I had a CEO say to me one time, I really don't need a salesperson who comes in here and asks me what keeps me up at night. I need somebody who can walk in here and tell me what keeps me up at night and how the hell I can get a good night's sleep. And I've never forgotten that comment. I mean, that was really, really, because wasn't that like the most popular sales question when we were being trained? Walk in and say, tell me what keeps you up at night. And for years that worked. It's not enough anymore.
I tell you what, thank you for calling out. I mean, that is so typical. We can get hung up on lame question. I'm gonna share a situation. I was in a CRO's office. This goes back a number of years ago, and the CRO had just mentioned in passing, because I walked in and he was hanging up on a phone call, and it was a phone call with a contractor that was going to start work on his house. He was going to build a new house, and very quick. And I think we had a little bit of a conversation about it, but that was it. I wasn't able to get a follow-up meeting with him for a couple months. And immediately when I started out the meeting, hey, how's your house coming? And it was amazing how he lit up and he began to share with me. Every time I talked with him over the next year and a half, it was amazing. I would always come back and say, hey, how's the house going? Because it was if you've ever built a house, it can be a nightmare. And it was a nightmare for him. And half of our sales calls, he would just spend dumping on me about how he was upset with the contractor, this sub, whatever. But what happened was I was able to personally connect with him. And in so doing, he was able to dump his frustrations, just like your husband was in that frustrating day with the patients. And then what happens is now the customer's absolutely focused on the business at hand. And you wind up having a much more meaningful conversation. You know what's interesting? The examples we've shared, it's really no different than life. It's no different than anything. If you're having a conversation with anybody, if you can't let them share, there is no value for you in being able to have a conversation about what it is you want to do, because they don't feel they connect. And this is why what we're talking about here today is so important, because AI is this tsunami, or people think it's a tsunami, and oh wow, it's going to change how we sell. No, personalizing the sale experience is more important than ever.
Yeah, and I think actually AI really helps you
It
personalize
does.
the sales experience. I mean, I use it. I rarely talk to a client that I don't put them in ChatGPT first, put their company, put their industry in, just so I can quickly learn, what's in there. Mark, I want to represent the flip too, because in the sense that I got on a call the other day, and it's really amazing to me. The older I get, the kind of the less friendly I am. And what I mean by that is that I got on with a salesperson. I needed an answer to a question. I was having a problem with my phone, and I couldn't quite get it. I couldn't quite get it to work. And I called, and I got a salesperson who had been trained to build a connection and a relationship with me. It was irritating the fire out of me. I mean, he went on and on about how much he loved my name. He went on and on about, I don't know, something. I told him I was in Kansas. He was talking to me about Kansas and stuff. And I was thinking, would you just answer my question? So that example that I gave with my husband, Rob, I would have been the opposite in that situation. I don't want to talk to you about my day. I don't want to talk about anything. I want to get to the business at hand, and I want to get through this. And so when you go through the sales training that you've been taught and you try to build relationship and connection with me, it irritates me. And so I think it's important for people to understand you really have to read your customer and know who they are and what type of individual they are.
That's so true. That brings back a story. Years and years ago, I was an account manager in Knoxville, Tennessee. And there was a particular account I had to go in and visit every week. And it was a great account, but man, the customer would just talk about anything and everything. And it drove me crazy because I wanted to get to the business at hand. I had other things to do. And I had to politely kind of move over and say, hey, this is great conversation. I love hearing about everything you did over the weekend. And yada, yada. She would just go off on everything. And I go, but you know what? I want to be respectful of your time. Oh, yeah. Wow, it is. Time's slipping away. And I would have to use a line like that to kind of pull her back in. So then we start talking business, and then she'd wander off on some other story, and I'd pull her back in. And I go, but I had to allow a little bit of my personality to come through, joking with her about time to pull her back in. But it came down to just what you were saying. We got to be able to read the other party, because that person you were talking to, trying to get your phone fixed, wasn't reading where you were coming from.
Not at all.
And that's one of the key issues that we got to identify. So here's a question that I think you have to ask is, hey, how critical is this to getting this solved like right now? Because what you were calling about was basically a transactional repair. You just needed a transactional repair. Now, Rob buying a 6-figure piece of equipment, that wasn't a transactional activity. That was more of a business decision. So again, you got to understand, where's the customer at in terms of what they're looking to buy and what they're looking to solve. And that's going to help you determine what is that level of personalization that you have to be able to accept or deliver in the sales process.
Yeah, so well said. Well, Mark, it's probably time for the book, right?
Yeah. Hey, and the book is so perfect because, hey, what we've been talking about, Daniel Pink, To Sell is Human.
Yeah, no better. No better. Mark, I was trying to figure out, I forget when that book was written. I feel like I read it ages ago, but when I was trying to think of a book for this, I thought, there's really nothing better than To Sell is Human, because that is really the message, everything that we've been talking about this morning, that Daniel Pink gets across.
This is so key, because right now we're in SKO mode. And it was funny. I was on the phone yesterday with the CRO and SKO I'm going to be doing next week. And I asked him, I said, how much of the meeting is around product training? And I could hear his voice cringe on the phone. He says, probably about 80%. You're like the only piece. It's not product. And I go, oh, I think for every SKO that gets product focused, they should be mandated to read To Sell is Human by.
Yeah, right.
It's insane. It's insane. Anyway.
Yeah, I know, to have all your salespeople in there and to use an SKO time as a time to talk about product updates.
Oh, and it's funny because I was participated in another one on Tuesday of this week virtually. And so I was kind of tapping it along the way. Same thing. It was all just product updates. And it's like, please, people, you are, and you wonder then why salespeople go out and sell focused on the product, because the only time they're together as an organization,
that's what we talk about.
Product. So, and SKO, if you don't know what we're talking about, that's sales kickoff, stands for sales kickoff meeting. So anyway, hey, let's get into the lightning round. You ready?
Sounds good.
Lightning round. Top ways to create a personalized sales follow-up system.
Yeah. So if you're going to do a personalized follow-up system, number one, know your customer personally and professionally.
And that means every time you're with them, uncover one piece of information about them personally that you can in turn tack on to the next call.
Follow up in a way that they like to communicate. I'll just give you a great example. People leave my husband, Rob, voicemails all the time. Rob, he's a texter. He will not text and he will not read emails. Either one of them he won't do. It's a waste of time and energy. So know how they communicate.
That is so key. I got a CRO who only communicates to me by way of text. And the problem is I'm fearful because most of my text messages are with people who are non-business related. And I'm afraid of saying something I don't want to say. So but you have to be able to adapt. Okay, I don't know if I built on yours, but anyway, I'll turn it back over to you. You should.
Okay, all right. If you want to personalize the follow-up system, focus it on challenges or problems that they're having, in the sense that what can you do to add value to help them solve those problems or challenges?
Remember, you can personalize by way of an email too. You can personalize by way of a text message. It isn't just voice where you are personalizing, and you can simply do that by adding a quick sentence into that email that you're sending, or a PS. I love doing it by way of, I'm going to send an email to somebody, and then right at the bottom I go, hey, PS, how is that doing? How's that going for you? And it's amazing at how it generates a response back.
Yeah. Number 7, make sure that you take copious notes in your CRM. There's no way you're going to remember the things that you need to remember in order to, in order to follow up. I just had a call with a guy yesterday, and he is headed to play in a golf tournament in Hawaii, and we're going to reconnect right after that golf tournament. I needed to put notes in there that I need to remember that and follow up around that.
Yeah, because something about golf, Hawaii, and Meridith, those things go together. Hey, here's the piece. Be curious. You have to be curious at whatever they're interested in. You may have no interest in it, but you've got to demonstrate curiosity, and it's amazing what you will learn about them and about something else.
Yeah.
You share one more, I'll share one more, we'll close it down.
Yeah. Number 9, if you want to follow up really in a personalized way, make sure your timing is correct. For example, this morning I was doing some research on the calls that I'm going to make today, and I pulled up a lead. And when I went to go do the research on it, their conference is this month. For me to reach out and ask about, if they're hiring speakers, that meeting planner's head is in trying to get this conference delivered. I need to delay that contact and delay that follow-up until after their event. And then I need to have a note in there that says, hope everything went great with the conference, those types of things.
Or you call them up and you wish them the best, that, hey, trust your conference is absolutely terrific. It is. But it's about playing to the timing of the individual. And in all of this, what have we been talking about? You got to make sure that you're using your CRM system. Hey, I'm going to take a moment here to talk about Sales Logic Mastermind. We had a great call on Monday of this week.
Yeah, we did.
Even though I was sitting in an airport, my connection was bad as can be. We had a great conversation. So if you're not part of our Sales Logic Mastermind, jump out to Sales Logic Podcast and scroll down and do it, because, man, we got some cool, neat stuff that is coming out. You're going to start seeing in the next couple of weeks. So anyway, hey, with that, we want to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. If something we've said has earned you a single dollar, consider telling a friend about our show, because it's how we grow when you grow. And trust me, Sales Logic podcast downloads are going through the roof. Thank you. Leave more reviews, please.
I know.
I'm Mark Hunter.
I know it is. And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell.
And remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
all of this uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage.
And the sale becomes logical.
All right. Head out to saleslogicpodcast.com. Leave us a review. Send us a question. Join the mastermind. We'll see you right back here next week for another episode of Sales Logic.